This episode of iFanboy is brought to you by GoDaddy.com and Netflix.com.
This little demon guy scares me sometimes.
He's a Japanese demon, Oni.
Yeah, but he's kind of.
Does he haunt your dreams?
He haunts my dreams. He chases after me. Welcome to another episode of iFanboy, the comic book discussion show. I am Ron Richards, and I'm here with my compatriot,
Conor Kilpatrick.
And my other compatriot.
I'm other compatriot.
Yes.
I am Josh. We wanted to talk to you about Oni Press. Oni Press makes a lot of comic books. They're a small publisher out of Portland, Oregon, founded in 1997. And
by Bob Schreck and Joe Nosmak.
These facts.
Facts.
Excellent. Excellent.
Bob Schreck then left, went to D.C., and Joe's been running the company.
It took Greg Rucka and Judd Winnick with him. We'll get to all that, the stuff. It's funny, we've been trying to pick books that we could talk about to highlight the diversity, the quote real mainstreamism of that's their
kind of their catchphrase
of Oni Press, and it was hard because there are actually so many books, and also we've talked about a lot of Oni books because they clearly are a place that we look to get new, interesting, and diverse material.
That's the hard thing is we were going through, and I had a stack of Oni books that I had bought over the years, and I went, we did a vault on this one. This was in the romance show. This was in the the music show. Like everything they're so diverse that they've hit every little theme we've done.
And so even as for this show, as we're whittling down what we're going to talk about, this is what the stacks of books is what we came up with. It's amazing to see what this little independent company who honestly has been they're smaller than Image, they're smaller than Dark Horse, but probably on the same size level as Top Shelf, I would say, kind of that sort of thing. But a lot of stuff has come out, very diverse and very prolific.
What's funny is if you talk about Top Shelf is done by a lot of people who, if you read superhero comics, you probably don't know a lot of the people doing the stuff from Top Shelf.
Yeah.
But if you only read superhero comics, you'd be surprised to find that a lot of people are doing work at Oni from there. There's also all sorts of people who aren't.
There's new guys, there's up-and-comers, but there's also, you'll find guys who do, you might recognize their names.
Yeah,
a couple of them you'll see here.
And we've talked about Scott Pilgrim, which is sort of their
Scott Pilgrim is their biggest book,
hit.
Their biggest hit. I mean, everyone knows, we did a whole show on that. Queen of Country
is another huge book that they did, but we've covered that stuff, so we thought we were going to delve in a little more and get to some of the books that we haven't had a chance to.
Yeah,
we've actually never covered Queen of Country though.
We should do a Queen of Country show. Not now.
Not now. Well,
I probably have to read it.
They were on the gift show. They got a few minutes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. We should do another one about it. That other title is coming out soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should talk to him about that sometime. Now, where do we start?
Where do we start?
It's really like they're sort of all over the map. Now, you remember a long time ago, sometime in the 40s, I think, we did an episode.
The 1940s?
1942 here.
Our 40s episode.
New comic book by Scott Chandler. All the rage.
Wait a minute. Anyway. We talked about the Northwest Passage, which is sort of historical fiction about Canada and fur trading and fighting and things like that.
Great collection, great hardcover.
Not talking about that again. There's also a mini where we talk to Scott Chandler. You can look for that. I want to talk about Crogans' Revenge, which is a very similar, as you can see, they're both very similar little hardcover book, and this is part of a series. The guy's name is Chris Schweizer, and this is a pirate story, also done in that sort of animated style. It's not the same, not Scott Chandler, it's not the same style, but as you can see, it's it looks more cartoony.
Crogans' Vengeance.
Crogans' Vengeance. Did I say Revenge again?
Yeah, you did.
I keep doing that.
Yeah.
Crogans' Vengeance. Basically, it starts off, and there's a timeline, a family tree of all these different Crogans over history, starting with Catfoot Crogan in 1701.
That's awesome.
And he's a pirate, and this book is about Catfoot. And I thought it was going to go through all of them, but it's just telling one story. So at the beginning, it's modern times. You're talking to Dr. Crogan and his son. And he tells him a story about Catfoot Crogan back in the day. And then, on tap is Crogan's March. That's coming up, next after this.
Is he a soldier, that one?
It looks like a legionnaire of some kind.
Nice.
So there's all, and they go. If you look at the family tree, the private eye, British infantry, smuggler, gun runner.
Basically, it's every genre. You get Western.
And so he can do everything through this, and I'm so excited because this was great.
Yeah.
This takes place on a pirate ship in 1701, or it's actually not a pirate ship at the beginning, but they get boarded by pirates and they become pirates. And I've read a lot of the Master and Commander books.
Yeah.
So I know when somebody's done their research because those books are
thoroughly researched.
All research.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a ton of fun, and this is going to be the nerdiest thing maybe I've ever said. The lettering in this book is awesome.
It's all hand lettered.
It's all hand lettered, and I would have never heard myself saying this. You can tell.
Yeah.
And it's really good.
Yeah.
Just great, beautiful, inky lines throughout the whole thing. It's fun, but it's serious. It's not necessarily funny, even though it kind of looks like it's going to be. Really interesting characterizations of people on the ship, and like it starts off with Crogan getting whipped, but the quartermaster's not whipping him hard enough because he's a fair man, and
it's
sword fights and the shootouts. And,
these historical fiction books that they're doing between Northwest Passage and Crogans and stuff like that, and with it's a different size book. It's a different, just a whole different feel, and the combination of the animation style.
Yep.
It's this is nobody else is doing this, and
That's
it's
beautiful.
really cool. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I really like about them is that their presentation is really good, and they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we have normal size trade paperbacks. Like here's Whiteout, which is
It's a comic.
normal comic size, but
that was printed before.
right,
I
this
don't
is
even know if
old. The new ones, they're digest size.
Right.
But like most of the books they put out are this size, or some are this size. But I like the fact that they're unique. You know,
mixing it up, yeah.
when we made our Oni stack, most of the books were smaller, which I like.
They've really embraced the digest size. They've really embraced a lot of the trends about comic production that are outside of the Marvel DC
manga
approach.
side,
Yeah, they're taking more of the Japanese influence as well as some of the European stuff. And when you go to look at a comic shop that's got their trades and graphic novels organized by publisher, Oni looks different. The shelf looks different. It's all different.
And I bet that there's like scads of comic book shops out there that can't deal with it because they've got all their shelves built for the standard.
Well, it's funny because before I really started buying a lot of Oni books, I built a bookcase, and I built it for comics. So I made a custom size shelves, like a hardcover shelf and a trade shelves, and I made the top shelf digest size. And once I started really buying Oni books, it just filled right up. Like I have no more room in the digest size shelf because they're too small. But so one of those books that's on there is Saltwater Taffy, which is there's two, got 1 and 2 here. And these are kids. These are aimed at younger audiences, so it's not as sophisticated, but it's still enjoyable as an adult.
It's charming.
Yeah, and basically the story is it's a family vacation. The family comes from, it doesn't say, is it Boston or New York? Could be one of the two.
Connecticut.
Well, they come from the city.
Right.
So they're either coming from Boston or New York, and they go to Maine for the summer. And this is basically the adventures the two brothers have, Jack and Benny.
I met the creator Matthew Loux, and he said, and he was just talking. He's like, this book's about Maine, and I was like, let me see that. I was like, did you actually go to Maine? He's like, yes.
Well, according to the bio, he spent
Look at you, listen. You're the main
I'm from Maine, but he did like
it says in the thing he spent the summers in Maine.
Yeah, and you can see it looks like that.
So basically, it's these two brothers, and it's their adventures in Maine, and it's not serious. I mean, the first one they fight a giant lobster with a salty old fisherman, and that's their sidekick.
I love the salty.
And the second book, they fight a big giant eagle that likes to steal people's hats and wear them.
Yeah. It's silly. Then they're all ages books, and the thing is, they don't talk down to kids, but there's nothing in there that's going to be really salty except for the sea captain. So you can feel pretty good about giving these to kids as a good way to get them.
But
to
as an adult, there's enough in there. There's funny bits. The brothers play off each other well. And what's interesting for me is that when I was a kid, we grew up in New York City. We'd go to Cape Cod for the summers. And it's not Maine, but it's the same feel. Like me and my brother are the same age.
I know, kidding.
Me and my brother are the same age difference. They're 3 years apart, and so it was kind of
South Shore, North Shore, the same.
It's the same feeling where you go to your family vacation. You don't really. Where's the TV? What are we gonna do? But then you discover the beach, and you run around. You're on your bikes, and so that for me there was a bit of that nostalgic feeling of this was. Giant eagles aside, this was kind of like.
So when you were 8, would you like enjoy this as an 8-year-old? Put yourself in the 8-year-old mindset.
Maybe.
I think 8 to 10 is a pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, they're all ages.
Smart 6-year-olds.
They're designed to be a teen, younger teen.
Right.
But I think absolutely.
Cool. That's great that they do.
But people always ask us for books for kids, and Saltwater Taffy. If you got that kind of, I feel like adventure books.
Loux also did this book called Side Scrollers, which is about a bunch of kids who are just out of high school getting up to hijinks.
Video games.
Right,
it's
sort of silly. It's a slice of life kind of thing. They find the bully and they mess up his car. And
actually, the art styles for Crogans, Northwest Passage, and these are all somewhat similar.
Yeah.
But next, when we come back, Ron's going to talk about food books.
This episode of iFanboy is brought to you by GoDaddy.com. Web hosting from GoDaddy.com includes 99.9% uptime, 24/7 support, and free access to Hosting Connection, the place to install over 30 free applications sure to help you get the most from your hosting plan and website. If you want to make an impact online, GoDaddy.com has what you need. .com names for as low as $1.99, plus world-class hosting, fast and easy website builders, and much, much more. Please support our sponsors by checking out GoDaddy.com and using the coupon code iFanboy to get 10% off your purchase and to let them know that we sent you.
So another title from Oni that's gotten a lot of positive press, won a bunch of awards, kind of in the same kind of digest size as the Scott Pilgrim, taking a page from the Scott Pilgrim series, is Wonton Soup by James Stokoe.
Yeah, this is the story of Johnny Boyo, who is a intergalactic culinary student. And he travels around, like he something happened at the culinary school, which is of course more like a ninja high school kind of thing, really, than it is. Yeah. And so he goes from planet to planet learning these advanced cooking techniques, and it's very wacky. It's like cyberpunk meets
the cooking craze.
Yeah,
it's perfect for the generation of people who like Food Network.
There's lots of girls with short, spiky hair, and that, so he's into that.
That's why I dig it. Yeah.
And he goes to find his master, and they cook it's really like extreme.
It's almost
examples.
Ninja or samurai by way of chef.
Cooking, yeah, which is a really cool kind of approach to it, and kind of merging of those two worlds.
It's incredibly imaginative. Yeah. Absolutely, like it's one of those things. Like, what the hell were you on when you were doing this? What were you thinking?
I really like the art in it too.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's very detailed, and it's also it's different. It's cartoony, but it's not. I think this is more pure cartoon. This is kind of manga cartoony.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely takes a lot more influence from the Japanese side of things than this and Side Scrollers both have the same kind of digest size, but this is obviously more cartoony, animated, kind of influence. While this is more manga, kind of very detailed.
Like a lot of these things, it's a combination of things.
Convergence.
I find that's happening in a lot of these. You'll see things coming together that hadn't previously. I've just made this conclusion.
Sure.
So
we see American creators influenced by Japanese art.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how it's kind of creeping in. And
this is listed as volume 1, so I assume there could be more story ends, so that it could be further adventures and whatnot. Yeah. But you could just read that on its own. If you like it, you can move forward. Also read sort of had the same feeling, was Multiple Warheads by James Stokoe. Am I getting that? Oh no, I'm sorry, that's the last one. Brandon Graham. Sorry, well he's getting 2 credits for it. This is like a post-apocalyptic world, and there's a girl, and she's smuggling organs. It felt a lot like Wonton Soup. At first, I was like, "Is this the same universe?" Because it could. Right. At the end, this guy, you learn that the artist had done porno comics before, which is pretty evident when you read it.
He actually reminds me of Jim Mahfood at some points.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
But it's funny, her name is actually Sex. That's the girl's name.
But it's not porno.
It isn't. And
there's nudity in it, but it's not. There's sex in it, but it's not porno.
But there's actually a sort of a sweet romance going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And then there's like a Jabba the Hutt, but he's nice, and his name is Pumpkin.
Yeah.
And he's like the guy who buys the organs, and they're like super organs, so you can get eyeballs that you can see in the dark or whatever. Again, this is like a first issue. You could buy one. I think it's $5, $6.
But it's
number 1, but you could read this as a story on its own, and this can keep going on indefinitely. I actually really enjoyed this.
I liked it a lot too, yeah.
Good stuff. Look for that.
One book that came out last year was called Northworld by Lars Brown. We talked to Lars back in the Seattle. Comic-Con, the Emerald City Comic-Con, and Lars was the winner of the iFanboy desktop wallpaper contest
years ago.
05?
Perhaps.
06 maybe? And really great to see his book finally getting published. He was doing it as a webcomic, and then Oni picked it up. And what it is it's kind of I describe it as a mix between the movie Grosse Pointe Blank and World of Warcraft. So what you've got this world where there are kind of knights and not demons, but dragons and things like that. But
they just wear clothes from the Gap.
Yeah, but it's as if it's in the real world type thing.
It's like World of Warcraft is real.
Yeah.
Like one of the things you could do is you could go be a lawyer, or you could go be a guy who goes on quests.
Yeah, exactly. And so the main character comes back home, and where he's got a history. There's an ex-girlfriend and their ex-fiance, I think, and
ex-girlfriend's getting married.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, and it really kind of ties into the whole kind of gaming culture in the same way that Scott Pilgrim does with video games, but this more for role-playing games. Mm-hmm. I really like that the art style is more on the cartoony side of things, but the kind of surreality of the fantasy world and mixing with the real world is.
I like that it's a very competent world building.
Yeah.
It sets up a reality that is different from ours, but you can understand. I really like that when here's a world and its rules are different than ours.
Yep.
And you get that, and then you roll with it.
And what I also like,
but it's still recognizable, and relatable. I mean,
yes,
the problem is he's got an ex-girlfriend who's getting married,
and a coffee shop.
And what there's also is that the subtle unveiling of details as the story progresses. Is where you hear about his kind of dark past and why he left the town, and and things like that, and it really leads you, like, when I finish this, I was like, okay, when's the next one coming out? You know, and so it's that kind of extended, you know, kind of series. Hopefully it comes out soon.
Main character kind of a dick.
That happens.
Just saying.
Yeah, but
Totally fine.
But definitely really good. One of the fun ones to come out of Oni last year, and it was really cool to see. You know,
If you play World of Warcraft,
yeah, this is totally up
many
there.
millions of you do.
Yeah,
Or you like John Cusack.
And
There you
many
go.
millions of you also do.
Perhaps more.
I like John Cusack.
So when we come back, we got a couple more to talk about.
Thanks to Netflix for sponsoring this episode of iFanboy. With Netflix, you can rent over 100,000 titles online with free shipping both ways to your home. They have over 40 shipping centers, so almost all deliveries happen within just one business day. If you have an Xbox 360, they're streaming to that. If you have a PlayStation 3, then you can get Blu-ray titles. So there's all sorts of ways that you can use Netflix. The Netflix plans start from just $4.99. As a new member, you can get a free no-risk 2-week trial. Check it out at www.netflix.com/iFanboy, and don't forget to use that www when using that code.
Another book that is it's different from all of these other ones. It's funny, and it actually comes out in standard comic book size, you'll note, is Wasteland by Anthony Johnston. I said it like Ron did. And Christopher Mitten. And it's a post-apocalyptic story. It's another big world-building thing where you've got a world where there's groups and shadowy things going on, and there's a lack of water. It's like that. I've read the first volume. There are now 3 volumes out. A shadowy drifter comes into town, and people are really into this book.
Yeah.
It's sort of the kind of book that, I don't know, you could see this coming out from Vertigo, but I feel like nobody else is doing a book like this of any quality.
I could see this book coming out through Image as well too.
Yeah.
But the commitment to it that Oni's shown, I think, is really cool. Christopher Mitten's art is great.
Great, yeah.
I'm really a big
It's a
fan
black and white book. It's
Yeah.
all done in gray tones.
Yeah.
It's just like you learn more about everything as you go forward.
What's funny is it's not. I mean, even though this is post-apocalyptic and Multiple Warheads is kind of post-apocalyptic, and Wonton is kind of in that dirty future vein, this is not like any other book on this table right now.
Yeah.
Apocalyptic, it's got the word, the title, but still it's different, which is interesting.
Yeah, and what's funny is that like a post-apocalyptic world in comic books and film, for that matter,
so cliched.
It's so cliched. But this doesn't feel like anything else. It feels very original.
Yeah.
If like you want a story that's like Mad Max, but I guess intelligent. You know what I mean? Like something you've got to think about, and there's a lot to chew on there. Johnston is a very committed writer. He doesn't half-ass anything.
No, he did.
And it's absolutely worth taking a look at.
He's got a great work ethic.
Oh yeah.
GTD.
Yeah.
So.
Great book. Go check this out. This is unlike any of these other ones.
I think for people who have maybe are more hardcore superhero readers and are worried about these books, it's probably the one they could jump into.
This is a good entry point. I mean, if you look at it, it's building up a nice little trade library.
Yep.
I mean, this is gonna, provide a good chunk of a shelf, after, once it gets to 5 or so volumes. It seems like a pretty good sprawling epic type thing. And yeah, I mean, and just consistently, everyone that's read this has said, check it out. It's really worth reading. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Critically lauded.
Critically lauded, indeed.
There's that. Finally, Andy Parks, the guy who most people know as
An inker.
as what's his name?
Phil Hester's inker.
Phil Hester's inker, of course. They work together. He's actually written a lot of stuff.
He did Union Station, which is what we talked about on a previous episode.
And Oni lets him do a lot of these things. And what's interesting is that there's not a standard. Like, he does all sorts of different things. Is what
What's interesting is these are both historical
Historical
fiction.
not historical. It's not fiction.
Well, historical
novels.
I mean, this Union Station is a true story. This is a true story.
Yeah.
And then there's Uncle Slam Fights Back, which is like a sort of silly, satirical character on if
you don't buy this,
Captain America was crazy.
If you don't buy this comic book, the terrorists win.
Yeah, I don't know if I can explain this. I'd like to.
That's the best kind of comic.
Like at the beginning, like it's Captain America basically. But he's now like, it's present times. He's in an underground bunker and he's completely batshit. And he watches Fox News.
The bulging eye.
And he believes everything they say. So he goes kind of nuts.
Yeah.
And there's like a girl who is related to the person who created him, and she's like his handler. But then there's a talking dog that's Fire Dog.
Fire Dog.
It's weird. But it is what it is. It's really nice looking, good cartooning. I'm not sure who the artist is on it. T.J. Kirsch. Yeah, check it out. And then like John McCain is in this, but he looks like decrepit and old, and like really, it's not if you're probably for a liberal mindset.
Yeah.
Probably. Now at the same time,
for a liberal mindset.
Capote in Kansas is literally just a telling of Capote's time in Kansas. Truman Capote as he was preparing to write In Cold Blood.
Was researching In Cold Blood.
Yeah. This came out before. The movie, the various movies that came out,
Capote,
yeah,
Infamous and Capote.
Yeah, and it's completely straight. Like it's like the story. It's just like an exploration of Capote.
It's a fascinating story.
Meeting the killers. It's a fascinating story. And what's funny is that I had forgotten I'd read this, and I'm like, why do I know more about Truman? Because I hadn't, I don't remember the movie all that well.
Right.
And I actually liked this better than the movie.
Yeah. Great Chris Samney art.
It's beautiful, and it's so subtle and understated. And Chris Samney does a thing where he's able to draw real people.
He does a lot of shadowy work too. Great shadow work.
Yeah. It's just it's very moody.
I really like.
The moody story is a fantastic story.
I really like that Parks is doing these sort of historical. Like I kind of want more. After reading this in Union Station, it's just like these are the kind of things, because we all we share an enjoyment of historical kind of tales and stuff like that. So it's great that kind of exists. And what does it say on the cover? It says what is it? It's a
drawn novel.
A drawn novel, which is an interesting kind of take on it.
And what's interesting is that like he had an idea for the Zeitgeist, I think, before it did.
Yeah.
Like if you're Andy Parks and you're sitting there watching the Emmys or the Oscars and you're just like,
come on,
come on, oh.
But yeah, so
it's right here.
I did it already.
And he did it really well.
Yeah.
So if you like Truman Capote or you want to know more about that stuff, give this a try. It's sort of a different look at it than the films were.
Yeah. So these are just a couple of books that Oni has put out. There are tons of other ones. Like we said, we talked about Queen Countries, Scott Pilgrim, Local from Brian Wood and Ryan Kelly, one of my favorites. Apocalyptics, the Blue Monday series by China Cloak.
The new one just came out.
New one, yeah. There's a new one for this year finally.
Gonna make a big Oni stack.
Yeah, big Oni stack.
So if you behind the Oni.
So if you want to check out the stuff that Oni puts out, you can go check them out at onipress.com.
Yep, they sell their books through there. A lot of local stores wouldn't have books like this. Local stores don't carry indie stuff. So if you want to check that out, onipress.com, they sell them through there, or Amazon, or any of your online retailers will have those stuff.
Yeah. But if you have any questions or want to suggest anything from Oni that we didn't talk about, you can email us at contact@ifanboy.com.
And you can give us a call, leave us a voicemail at 888-FANBOYS, which is 326-2697.
And as always, revision3.com/ifanboy to get more videos, or ifanboy.com to comment on this, or to read any of the other content we put up every day, or look at our audio podcast. Are you going to play Jenga?
We're going to play Oni Jenga.
We're totally playing Oni Jenga. Your turn.
Ooh, Barry Ween.
Oh! It's going to go!
It's going to go!
Oh, the leading man.
If the red light has come on. The red light is on. Hello! Oh, goodness. I'm so excited.
All right.
What sort of treasures does it hold?